Hello and welcome to the Business of Meeting podcast. I'm your host, Eric Rosenberg. Over the years, I've had the privilege of helping businesses in the meetings and event industry grow and succeed. And I'm excited to share that experience with you. If you feel alone and overwhelmed, and if you're looking to take your business to the next level, improve your strategy and sales, and connect with like minded professionals, you are in the right place. I invite you to visit eventbusinessformula.com and join our community of event business owners dedicated to exponential growth. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. And today we have the great pleasure of speaking with someone who found her own company, Grow Better Together, after an amazing career, different organization, including a small organization you might have heard of, Cirque du Soleil, where she was in the HR, a big career, 7 years there. She's absolutely phenomenal. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about FIFA. We're going to talk about venue. We're going to talk how organization can better organize themselves, especially cooperation in the meetings and event industry. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Geneviève or Geneviève, depending if you speak French or English. Geneviève Retzlaff. Geneviève, nice to have you on the podcast today.
Hi, thank you for that welcome intro. That's amazing. Thanks for having me. I'm honored.
Honored too. I mean, your career is absolutely fascinating. You speak several languages. You just moved from Montreal to Vancouver. You lived in Germany. It's just amazing. So let's start with the beginning. What is your journey?
My journey, well, yeah, I can go way back, but maybe I'm going to start from most recent years. I've worked in HR my whole career. I studied HR. I was very intentional. I wanted to work for Cirque du Soleil. And so after my university, I applied to one position. Then I went on the trip, after university trip with a friend to Peru. And while I was there, I received a note from Cirque du Soleil. They invited me for an interview. So it was just like serendipitous, very intentional. Maybe some would say I manifested it. um, that's how I started my journey at Cirque. And then I was working in HR and serving touring shows, and that kind of got me exposed to how do you create a show, how do you produce one, how do you run one, and that was so exciting. And I wanted to be on tour, and so that was also an intentional move. I left my full-time corporate job to go for a show that was temporary in New York, and from there, then I hopped on tours from tour to tour for another couple years, and that got me really excited about live entertainment. And most people on tour, they come from the music world and rock and roll kind of touring. So Cirque is much more relaxed, although it was like very fast paced for normal people like me who came from HR, moving every week to a new city. So I was able to see the world, get some insights on what it's like to be on tour, but also, just having a great, rich life experience. And then came at a crossroads, going like my tour was ending. I was on the show called Banco, and it was
Yes.
closing. Yeah, you know it, right? Yeah, yeah. We were in
Yes.
Belgium actually when you were still there. I was there.
Yes.
And I was offered to hop on another tour or go back to the headquarters in HR with a promotion as a HR business partner. And I just thought, yeah, I'm gonna try normal life again, see how I go. Settle, get myself a condo, just normal life. And yeah, so I did that for a little bit until I met my German husband, and then we moved to Munich together. And then before that, I moved into the film industry. So I kind of hopped around a little bit. And yeah, then I started my own business when I was in Germany, because then I had two children at that point and wanted to have a bit of a more flexible pace and all of that. And then that got me where I am today. I started offering HR consulting to my client, to my network. And then I was so inspired by, or just felt, when you feel like you're in the flow, was when I was working with
Yep.
leaders to talk about like their people related challenges, and so that got me interested in coaching. So I got certified there as a transformational coach, which, doesn't mean a lot to many, but what it means is that we look at your values and your belief system and try to shift and just be more impactful as a leader. So that's what I've done. So, and now it feels like I'm bringing all my worlds together in the offer I have now to the business world, and bringing, first of all, live entertainment to my, just really living that again. Because when I was in Germany, I touched upon like all different industries, and that made me confirm my love of events, and wanted to go back into that space, and bringing my HR and my coaching together to do organizational design. And that's where I'm at today, Eric. That's my
That's awesome.
journey. Yeah.
And I have the same feeling with what I do. I'm coaching even business owners, and I feel
Uh,
like I'm bringing everything I've done in my life. So I know that feeling.
yeah. So
Can we
cool.
go back just a little bit to the Cirque du Soleil? Because I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love the story, how it started.
Yeah.
I always
Cool.
wonder what it was to work with people like Guy Laliberté. And so, first of all, let's go there. How is it to work with such an entrepreneur, such a visionary, and in the meantime, when you have to structure and come with so many new ideas? By the way, for those who haven't read the book yet, The Blue Ocean Strategy, you have to buy it. They're talking about Cirque du Soleil and the positioning, but how is it to work with an entrepreneur like him?
Yeah, it is. It is quite inspiring, as in like you just feel the sense of belonging at Cirque is incredibly high. Like you just feel so proud to get on that mission. This guy has such a strong and very firm vision, and has this way of like bringing everybody on board, like a true leader, really. And it's just like you just feel lucky, like you feel lucky to be there. You feel grateful. And the time I was there, they took really good care of people, and just making that spark. And also the offices are just so cool. Like there's like, I don't know, you just go for lunch, and then there's like a unicyclist popping by, and there's just people trying on their makeups and their costumes, and it's just very lively and fun. Even if you're a person in finance, like it's just very colorful. Your day to day is very different than if you worked at a bank.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're talking about values, and that's something that I'm very
Oh
big
yeah.
on. Values, the culture. And I think that that's a question that's going to resonate with a lot of even business owner. You're on a project, and suddenly somebody's sick, or somebody is resigning, or
Mm.
there's something happening. How do you recruit for something like Cirque du Soleil when you have all those different artists? How do you have like double or triple for each position? How does that work?
Oh, yeah. So if you're on a show, if you're on tour, then you have backup acts. That's how. So if like an artist, like a critical, like if there's going to be an act that's a person that is injured, and then an act that depends on that person, there's a backup act for those people. So there's rehearsals and everything to get the backup artist ready in case they need to jump in such a situation. But otherwise, there are some numbers which are what they call the house troupe. So there's many artists. So if there's one missing, the act can still take place. And yeah, it's
Right.
all thought through. It's all very thought through.
I'm sure. As soon as you say Saltimbanco, you see my face lining, and
Super
I've seen
colorful, right?
many show of Cirque du Soleil. When you start planning for this, and you have permanent shows, and you have shows that are returning, how do you evolve from a small structure? How do you scale that? What type
Hmm.
of people and of competency do you need in the organization to do that?
It's like separate teams. And I would say like even each show has its own culture. Cause like you're a community, right? Like there's like 100 something people like living together. It's a 24/7 thing. Cause even when you're not like at the venue, you're having coffee, but you all live in the same place, right? So you meet everyone from the tour everywhere. Like you're constantly together. So it creates bond. And that doesn't really answer your question in terms of competency, but it's like each show has its own culture. But to build the show, then there's a team based in Montreal at the headquarters who does the creation. And I'm talking about that, and I haven't worked there for over 10 years. So just like, in my
Yeah,
days,
yeah,
they might
yeah.
have changed processes. I don't know. But yeah, so there's a team that they call the creation team. So they, they start the design, they work with the technical, what's feasible. So bringing the artistic vision into reality, what is technically feasible, and then just see like how groundbreaking the technicalities have become. It's pretty
Mm.
crazy. Yeah, so there's always like innovation in mind, and you have to have a certain type of profile. If you need to talk always about safety, for example, that's like, massive concern,
Mm.
obviously, but how can you have a wow effect and still be safe? And so all these questions come into play. And in terms of recruiting, yeah, I don't know. Like in terms of recruiting, you look for the competency for the role. I would say it's pretty similar to anywhere else. Like you have specific needs for a specific team, and then you need to find the right fit. But most people, I mean, there was not a shortage of applications in the time I was at Cirque. Like it's pretty much the opposite. It's like the screening that is more
That's a
difficult.
good problem to have.
Right. Yeah, I know, right? I don't know if it's still like that. I bet it is.
I'm sure it is. So you're going from this phenomenal, very well known, then you're transitioning into another organization, and
Yeah.
then you decide to launch your business when you have your
Hmm.
children. What is going into your mind every time you're doing that transition? In terms
Mm.
of fear, in terms of the imposter syndrome, how do you overcome that to really keep on going into your journey?
Yeah, I think I'm lucky in that sense. Like I've always had a growth mindset. Like it's not an effort for me. Like I don't really see things that don't work out as failure. And hearing all of my, fellows entrepreneurs, I think it's a natural strength that I didn't realize how valuable it was until I wasn't immersed in that sense. But I do have to say, leaving Cirque is a sense of like your identity, right? Because the first thing you want to talk about is Cirque, right? Oh my God, you worked at Cirque. That's awesome.
Yes.
And it was the same. Like every time like I come into a room and people find out I worked at Cirque, like everyone turns around and everybody wants to hear all the stories, right? So it is part of like it's a wow. So it's part of the identity. And when you leave Cirque, like there's kind of a little bit of that void, It's like, very interesting. But yeah, I think I was very intentional about all the career decisions I've made, and so I have no regrets. I am perfectly happy where I'm at, and I'm sure it will evolve as it has in the last 6 7 years. I have my own business, but yeah,
So now you are with Grow Better Together,
yeah.
and you're doing organizational design. You're helping.
Hmm.
So can you like give me like the 30 seconds pitch and explain with few examples what it is that you do?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So it is really to align your vision and your goals as an organization with the structure. So it's like I speak coach, as in talk about goals, where are you going with your direction? But I also speak corporate. What does that mean in terms of your structure, your people? Are they playing in their strengths? Is there like blurred lines and roles and responsibilities? And then just addressing all of that. And we talked about this before we hit record, but the pandemic really kind of accelerated everything. The event industry has boomed like crazy. And now we're like, everybody's so passionate, which is so cool, right? And that makes me so excited about working in that industry. So everybody pitches in, like, oh my God, there's an event to deliver. Let me do this, let me do that. And what happened in the last couple of years is like there's like doubles, right? People are like not sure, and then there's it could hurt the dynamics and all of that. So I'm helping sort this out, be more intentional about the roadmap to get to your goals, and make sure your employees play in their strengths, to be able to just achieve and use the togetherness of a team to achieve more with the same resources, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Now you're talking about the roadmap. Are you taking their roadmap and executing it, and are you also helping them define the roadmap?
Yeah, I have different levels of services. The full blown service is to recommend and implement. And some companies that would have HR that, would be engaged and have the capacity to do that. would take care of that part, but it has not happened yet. Once, provide recommendations like, okay, can you make that happen? It's like, sure.
On your LinkedIn, the first sentence, the very first sentence says, creates organizational capacity to host the FIFA World Cup.
Yeah.
Tell us a
It's,
little bit about that.
yeah. This has been one of the most exciting pieces of my work is to combine now the sports because I come from live entertainment and now I combine sports. It all started with this project I've worked on with BC Place, which is the stadium here in Vancouver, and they're hosting the FIFA in 2026. And coming from the world of events, I can just kind of imagine how big of a deal it is, right? But
Yes.
because of what we just said, the industry is booming already. So volume is that people are working at their maximum capacity. So that's what I started doing is to being more intentional about creating space for people to be able to dedicate some time and resources to that big event, right? That could be, it's just so major for stadiums to be able to organize that. It's very flattering, right? You're like, oh my God, I get to do this and host this very, how do you call this? Like, not majestic, that's not the word I'm looking for, but, very important event that the world will be looking at. It involves like the travel industry. It involves like just so many things, right? It's good for the city. It's good for economy. It's good for everything. So dedicating time and resources to that is important. And so that's what I help create is the space. Often what I realize is that not only in terms of time, there's no space, but in terms of mental capacity, you're already working at maximum because there's so many events and everything is booming. And then you have this other thing that, some of the leaders said, like, I have to strategize off the side of my desk
Mm.
because and then that's you don't want to be in that spot. So that's kind of what I solve. Yeah, it's been very rewarding and positive and exciting.
How do they find you, or how did you find them?
Like it's all from my time at Cirque. Funny enough, like I have all these connections that are kind of worldwide because of my life on tour, right? And so yeah, now I have a friend who's in Australia who's connecting me with her director, who's in charge of touring around the world, but they're based in Australia. So this kind of the Cirque has followed me for my whole career. Sounds like
That's awesome. Are you looking at only Vancouver, or are you looking as well
no.
as other stadium that are going?
Yeah, so no, my aim is to be able to provide support for every FIFA host. And so everyone in North America for the 2026.
Awesome, because I recently had on the podcast Lisa Lutoff-Perlo, the former
I
chairwoman of
saw, yeah,
Royal Caribbean and president of a Celebrity Cruise, and she is now the president of the host committee in Miami. So I'll connect you with her for sure.
perfect. Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah, thank you.
So you're a business owner. You're looking at obviously FIFA 26 as a great opportunity. Are you also thinking more long term? How are you going to leverage that to grow your business? What is your roadmap for the future?
Yeah, I'm hoping, I mean, the aim is to stay in the live entertainment and sports and entertainment. And so so the work I did, for example, with BC Plays, it supported them also to make space for Taylor Swift, who's coming right now in December. So we worked like last February to June to even now, like just doing bits and bobs to sort out the end of the project. But so the music industry is similar, right? And now I'm supporting security company who's providing staff to these large events. And so I help them with scaling up very fast and scaling down. And how do you keep your employees engaged in between, so we're starting to work together in December, for example. So I think there's so much work to be done in that space that I'm not, FIFA has been, a great opportunity so far, and I'm hoping it'll stay like that for a long, long time. But I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket, as most business owners would suggest not to do, right? So So yes,
Absolutely.
yeah. So if I can stay in the world of events, we all saw it in the pandemic how it could just shut down in one day. But I don't know. I kind of still have the faith that it cannot happen twice in my lifetime.
Right. Yeah, you're looking at your company. You're a small business owner as well.
Mhm.
If you look down the road, what is your vision in the next 10 years? How do you see your business evolving? How big you think you're going to be? How are you going to hire more people for
Mhm.
tasks that are you maybe less good at, or you don't necessarily want to, and be able
Yeah.
to focus on what you do best? What is your vision there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I just spent the whole summer reviewing my own vision, actually, my own strategy, because as I mentioned, like I was in between. Most people, if you would ask like 2 years ago, like, what's Jen doing? They would say she has a coaching business. So I was known as the coach, like the go-to for executive and leadership coaching and team coaching. But now I strategize to be able to move myself into a spot where I could use all of my skills, not just the coaching. So I was very intentional about it. So if I look in the next 10 years, I don't think I want to have like one of those. I want to differentiate myself by being a small size and flexible. So more like quality versus quantity kind of thing, and just be able to personalize and focus on the client's needs and not come up with like, this is what we've done for 100 different companies.
Mhm.
But yeah, so 8 to 10 people, all people who care, who use the same framework as I do, which is starting from a value-based leadership perspective, bringing the organizations to be more human-centric is really at the core of what I do. And I'm sensing that it's in a good time and place because that's what the new generations want at the same time. So it's almost, yeah. So it's a good place, and a lot of, even my generation, that's where they want to be going because they see that that's actually what sticks, and because it works. Like the more you take care of your people, the more they'll be dedicated to your own organizational objectives. So working with professionals who believe in the same. And so consultants are looking for this kind of work are right now easy to get on board. And so I work with some team members who support me when there's an overflow, and I have assistant who supports the background and the backbone of all of it, and working with other HR consultants who are, I don't really call them HR, but that's what the industry still calls them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a company for you. You might want to reach out to in Montreal. They have some shows around the world. I'm just kidding. So that would be kind of coming full circle. Now,
Totally. I know. Yeah.
if Cirque will become one of your client.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I am, but the whole HR team has moved on, and so it's just
Oh,
really, yeah,
yeah.
still working at it. Yeah.
My other question, as an event business owner, as a small business owner, when you have look at your vision and look at the things you like doing and where you're best at, how did you decide what you were going to delegate,
Hmm.
and how did you decide what you were going to focus on?
Oh, doing coaching, especially when I started my coaching career, I started as a career coach. And so my question for my clients were always, what is giving you energy versus what drains your energy? And so being in that space of like type of questions all the time, I had to question myself, like if I'm just yourself, right? Like now I had this this thing to put together that I'm really not, skilled at doing. So I keep putting it off. And so that's kind of a sign, right? To say, well, this is something I will delegate. So I just took a note, and just going like, this is going to go on the job description of the next person I'm going to hire. And so just building a team. And also I'm a big, big fan of the Clifton Strength Finder. I don't know if you're familiar, from Gallup. And so
Yeah.
I will only recruit based on complementary strengths. And that's what I always advise my clients to do as well. So look at having a diversity, not only in like ethnicity, but in skills and strengths. You don't want, and people tend to hire their mini me's, like people that are similar because they can relate, and, they can be buddies. They will be good for the culture based on their own assessment, but sometimes, having a diversity in strengths and skills. So I definitely walk that walk too, walk that talk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I like using the predictive index.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's similar to what you're saying. We tend to hire people
Yeah.
that
Such
we
a,
like, that we're getting along well with. Well, yeah,
yeah.
nice, but
Yeah.
and not fitting the bill for what's needed in the company.
Yeah, yeah. And part of the, consulting work I do is to have the whole team do a Clifton strength. And then you find out like who has which strength, who can go in which role would give them more energy. So I do that with clients and then I apply that to my own business. But what we find out often is like, oh, there's like the top 10 is all in the same categories of strengths, And so that's why you're like, ooh, maybe that's why there's, problems on the teams in terms of dynamics. Everybody cares so much about relationship building that execution could be a bit lower and things don't necessarily get done. Well, maybe you didn't hire for executing, you hired for relationship building because you can relate to relationship building. So it's more like, it gives it like a way to objectively hire for strengths and complementary skills.
I love it. The other question that comes to mind when I'm listening to you is, do you using a specific operating system like EOS or Scaling Up, or do you have a specific operating system you like to use or you see successful companies using?
No, I'm not so, that's not any of my strengths actually. And that's part of the things where like somebody who's strong in systems, I could definitely benefit from having on my team. I'm more of a like efficiency, productivity. If I have something to do, then I will just open my own system and put it in all in there. And usually my clients like for me to share that system and they kind of on board with it. So I never had to adapt so far, but I can see how that could be a bit of a leverage for me to be able to do that.
Understood. What I'd like to ask you as well in terms of, okay, you're building the team, you're recruiting complementary strength, wonderful. How often and how are you giving feedback or evaluating or advising your client to give feedback to your team, especially with the new generation? In the past,
Mm.
I'm sure you had like the yearly evaluation. And I'm saying if you're waiting for a year, they're gone already for a long
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah.
what is your best practice there?
So my recommendation is always a quarterly review, but it depends on, it could be heavy, especially in the world of events. Like I see how everybody's overloaded. They're looking for air all the time, and that feels to them something more to do, like another thing on their task.
Mhm.
So my job is really to bring it more as a productivity asset. Like the more you do this, the more capacity you will create, the more clarity your people will have, the more things will get done down the line. Like it's kind of a chain. It's not like a direct impact. And for now, you might suffer from spending more time doing that quarterly, but it pays off and helps people become more productive. Because when you know what to expect, when you know what your role is, when you know what your areas and strengths are, and when you are, dedicated to doing things that bring you energy, you're much more productive. And at the end of the day, the whole team benefits from that. And so it's more of a sales job, to be able
Absolutely.
to say short-term gain for short-term pain for long-term gain kind of thing.
Yeah. And my last question on that, what about engagement? What are you recommending to your client to do in terms of engagement in their team?
Yeah. So when I come in, like most of the consulting projects I've had impact on engagement because it's seen as a positive initiative. Because like what I want is people to play in their strengths. Who wouldn't like to do that, right? Who wouldn't like to just do tasks that energizes them? So it is seen as a positive thing. So at the beginning, I always send a survey going like, where are we doing? Where do you find like the troubles are? What are the challenges? What would a successful outcome of this project be? And just really projecting them in the future, but always comparing with where are they at right now. And then we do it like after the project and then 6 months after that, just to see if there are some adjustments. So that's why like we just
Mhm.
really want to make this sustainable over time. And the engagement is generally higher. Sometimes the engagement is already high. And so there's, very minimal improvement. But if it's low, it will improve for sure.
Are you using any AI tools when it comes to measuring the engagement of the teams?
Not yet. I haven't had, I mean, what I do, I use just a form. I really like the simple ways. I guess as I grow, maybe I will change my mind on that. But I'm more like, let's look, I will sit with the leader of the team going like, what do we need to measure? And I will create a Google form to keep it as simple and as quick as possible and more efficient. I'm not saying there's not more efficient ways to do that, but I haven't had the curiosity, maybe.
Yeah.
Not yet. It's gonna come, I'm sure. I'm gonna have to, throw myself in.
Wonderful. Geneviève, my two last questions for today. The first one, how do people get in touch with you?
You can go through my website, which is grow-better-together.com, or on LinkedIn, Geneviève Retzlaff. It might be hard to pronounce, but I'm sure my name will be somewhere in your show notes. And
Yes.
LinkedIn is a good place. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and I like to connect on there.
Well, Geneviève Retzlaff is Retzlaff. So here we go.
Yeah.
And my last question, you never know who's listening.
Yeah.
And what would be one of your passion or your dream, whether it's personal or professional, that if anybody is listening, they could say, oh, that's what she likes, or that's what she wants. I can connect her with that person. I can help her with that. I give you a very basic example. For years, I'm looking for a pinball machine specific, which is Mr. and Mrs. Pac-Man. I was playing that when I was a teenager, okay? Haven't found it anywhere in the world. So what would be one of your dream that anybody's listening would want to help you? What is it that they should be focusing on?
I don't know if I have anything like technical or like physical. More like my biggest wish is that there's more human-centric organization. That's the reason why I do the work I do. Like I just happen so that it's my job and I make money with it, but that's like truly at my core, that's what I want most, is there are more human-centric organization and people understand the power to do that. So I'm hoping with this conversation, people are getting a sense of that. I know there's a lot of people who believe in it already, but there's a whole lot that are not convinced yet. And so those are the ones I'd like to touch.
Beautiful. Geneviève Retzlaff, thank you so much for your time
Thank
today.
you for having me. It was such an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to the Business of Meeting podcast. I hope you found today's episode valuable. If you enjoyed the show, the most important thing you can do is leave a review and share it with your colleagues. It really helps spread the word. I truly appreciate your support. And if you're ready to take your business to the next level, don't forget to visit eventbusinessformula.com to learn more about how we are helping even business owners like you. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.